just entered the theater of an alien sky. If the words and images seem strange to you, there's a reason for this. Our world was once a vastly different place. To experience this won't hurt you, and there is nothing to fear. What was the mythic ship of heaven? Ancient records the world over speak of a great ship or canoe moving in the sky, but how strange that the sky above us today offers not a clue as to the original meaning. In the reconstruction presented here, the ship of heaven was the celestial vehicle of the primeval sun, a god celebrated globally and identified by early astronomers as the planet Saturn. Why were so many figures of the primeval sun given the form of a cosmic wheel, yet said to have sailed in a visible ship? The ship of the sun god Helios, a god identified archaically as the planet Saturn, was described as a golden goblet sailing on the Sea of Okeanos. Both the Egyptian sun god Ra and the Babylonian sun god Shamash sailed in cosmic ships. Over time, all of the ancient gods transmuted into legendary ancestors. Numerous Native American creator gods and ancestral heroes navigated a canoe across primeval waters. The Maya preserved the tradition well, and even the legendary Hiawatha sailed in a white canoe which moved without human aid. The Japanese creator god Sukuna Biho rode on the crest of the waves in a heavenly Kagami boat. The mythic ship was a common theme amongst the Greeks, who consistently recalled former gods as legendary heroes. The Asmat of New Guinea told of the creator hero in his canoe, just as the natives of the Marquesas say that in the beginning there was only the sea on which the creator, Tiki, floated in a canoe. The Polynesian god Tangaroa sailed above in a flying canoe, just as the great shaman of the Yenisei Ostiaks rode his boat in heaven. The greatest misunderstanding on this subject comes from a well-known fact. The ancient cultures gave the legendary ship a crescent-like form. With this recurrent association, it's just too easy to assume that the boat of the gods must have meant our crescent moon. But the historical contexts themselves say something much different. In fact, every concrete feature we can identify points directly to something else. And there is no escaping the contribution of a crescent form as described in our prior discourses. In fact, all of the crescent images we've discussed must be included in an analysis of the cosmic ship. The horns of the bull of heaven, the upraised arms of the pillar god, and the twin peaks of the cosmic mountain all connect symbolically to the revolving ship of heaven, with many mysteries to be addressed. The ancient Sumerians described the god Nana, the Babylonian sin, as the bull with glistening horns. But Nana was more than that. In text and in art, we see the god as the boat of heaven, with an urgent function of celestial transport. Transport is one of the keys we'll have to follow to see that our moon has absolutely nothing to do with the ancient theme. In Egypt, the pyramid texts proclaim of the deceased king, "May you ferry over by means of the great bull. The bull of the sky has bent down his horn, that you may pass over thereby." So too the coffin texts plead with the great horn to transport the deceased across the celestial waters. "O horn, ferry across him who is in his shrine." Clearly, an understanding of the bull of heaven could only facilitate our understanding of the cosmic ship. The imagery is explicit and incredibly concrete, as when the Egyptian coffin texts celebrate the long horn which supports the bark of Anubis. In both text and art, the ship of heaven resolves itself into a pair of horns. It's this identification that makes fully predictable the Egyptian assertion that the two arms of the pillar god Shu held aloft the ship of heaven. The two interpretations are inseparably connected. That fact alone is quite sufficient to explain why we see the god Shu with outstretched arms standing upright in the revolving ship of Ra, the ship that revolved like the arms themselves in the archaic cycle of day and night. And what of the third crescent form we've discussed, the twin peaks? In this most extraordinary test, it's the utter absurdity of the idea that drives our point home. Twin peaks rotating in the sky in a preposterous identification with a cosmic ship? The Egyptian sources do not equivocate. They either place the twin peaks on the ship or the ship upon the twin peaks. Either juxtaposition is fully reasonable since the symbols meant precisely the same thing. But the specialists, seeing only the contradictions of nature as we know it, can only marvel at the apparent incongruity. A single form expressing itself in the explicitly connected symbolism of a revolving crescent with opposite phases in a daily cycle. Seen in fragments, the underlying symmetry can only confirm the absurdity of ancient imagination. Or is it simply an affirmation of what has too long been beyond the reach of modern thought? As we continue this series, it will become increasingly clear that all of the symbolic archetypes are intimately and inseparably connected to each other. All consistently point back to an alien sky with no counterpart in things experienced today. This is why the first and only reliable guide for us will be the words and pictures and symbols of those who experienced the transformative ancient events.